Okay, welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classics less Non-Classics. This is episode number 1233 and Doubleshot number 1127. Now I got two flash trades here, and both these trades collect the entirety of the third volume for The Flash, which is only 12 issues. First off, we're starting with the very first trade, The Flash, Volume 1, The Dastardly Death of the Rogues. Though when the comic was coming, I look online, it's called Case 1, The Dastardly Death of the Rogues. This book contains the first 7 issues of this volume, and a one-shot. Yes, The Flash, Secret Followers and Origins 2010. And as you can see by the cover, it's a Brightest Day tie-in. Yep. What's the brightest thing here? It's mostly deal with the Captain Boomerang stuff. Yep, because he was resurrected in Black as Night, he pretty much his deal is that he has to throw his boomerang at Hawk, at the character Dove. And it's later in Birds of Prey she has to catch it. That's it. That's the only Brightest Day stuff we got here. It's very small scale. It's not a big arc in the series. It's a subplot for this thing. Now, the story goes is that Barry Allen is back at work. Now, this takes place not long after the events of the Flash Rebirth miniseries. And, of course, Black as Night. Yep. Because that was the two things that were published for Flash. Like, there were 3 things major published for Flash that featured him between the end of the first volume for The Flash. Actually, 4 things. Final Crisis, Flash Rebirth, Black as Night Flash, and then this book. Of course, also Black as Night as well. Now, now there's a character who apparently is supposedly the Mirror Master. Turns out this actually is not him at all. It's a character named Mirror Monarch. He is part of the Renegades, a 25th century version of the Rogues. Which, by the way, this group would actually later come back in the current run for the Flash. Yep, they came back, mostly Commander Cole did. And also Barry Allen, well, they kind of in the way. Now, unlike Wally, whose identity is publicly known throughout his entire volume, Barry's, on the other hand, is still a secret. Yes, Barry Allen being the Flash is secret to the general public. Now, as far as I can tell, there's no explanation for this at all, despite the fact there has been a book published detailing the. I think there was a book published in DC Universe that explained, oh yeah, Barry Allen was the Flash, and yet somehow, when he came back, they apparently decided to just ignore that and say, oh yeah, Barry Allen is basically like he's secret because he wears a mask. Yep, and now here's the thing. Now, the murderer who killed the Mirror Monarch, now it's revealed that this is not the current Mirror Master. His name is Scott, something he's Scottish. Yeah, he's a character created by Grant Morrison of all people. Yeah, he's a Grant Morrison character. And nope, it's not him. It's actually a character from the future. And throughout this whole storyline, there's also a subplot here that also sets up Flashpoint. Yep, the whole thing about this run is that it helps set up Flashpoint. Not obvious here, there's hints, seeds planted here and there. It's obvious what the very next storyline that it sets up Flashpoint. Now, who's Mirror Monarch's murderer? Apparently it's Barry Allen. Well, they think it's Barry Allen, but no, it's not him at all. It's actually the new Top who killed him. Why? They don't really say. Now, I should point out, though, this whole volume is written by Jeff Johns. Artwork is by Francis Manifold. Yep, that's who does the artwork here. Oh, not again, seriously? I don't know how in the world this keeps getting knocked out. Anyways, yeah, my charger for some reason keeps getting knocked out of the thing. So, this whole story arc is mostly about the Rogues. Yep, that's what this is about, the Rogues. Captain Boomerang in their hand doesn't come about halfway through the storyline. Yep. Now, there's also a thing in here. Now Barry, when he comes back, he is assigned to work cold cases because apparently it's real in the storyline that this arc that apparently higher ups really want these cases closed so quickly. Like, wow, oh my gosh, it is so something. The fact that this also has a plot point. They also mentioned Perry Smith in here. They didn't have her here in the next arc. I'll talk about it in a minute. So, yeah. Now, how in the world did the top reveal that this was not Barry Allen? Like, how did he frame him? They don't say. It's like maybe Jeff Johns was planning to explore this later, after Flashpoint. But nope. But I'll discuss more about that in a minute. When I get finished with the second volume. Yep. And also, there's also hints of the next arc, which also features the Reverse Flash. Now, oddly enough, in this whole run, there's no appearance by Hunter Zolomon. Nope, he's off in jail. Yep. The thing with Hunter Zolomon pre-Flash, his last appearance was an issue of Flash Rebirth. Yeah, that was his last appearance. Even publication-wise, that was his last appearance for a long time. It took almost 10 years to make this character finally come back. In the pages of Joshua Williamson's run for the book. Yep. And also, of course, Barry's working closely with Iris in the storyline. And we also see appearances by Jay Garrick, Bart Allen. Actually, the next story arc as well. Next story he does that. But it's a good start for this particular run. And I'm going to give this book roughly a 9.5. It's a damn good book. And Manapul himself does a fantastic job drawing the Flash here. Though he will continue to find another Flash in the next volume. Yeah, he will stick with this book for quite some time. Yep. Also, it was revealed that Forrest, this is a character, I think he's no supporting character of Flash, he apparently was dating Patty Pacific after Flash briefly dated her. And of course, well, Barry, of course, is dealing with the whole Rogues thing. And there's also a trial in the future. Well, apparently they want to listen until he basically breaks out of his restraints and explains to them, yeah, I'm not responsible for this. It was somebody else. And then eventually, because apparently also your history is wrong, and then it's revealed by the judge that apparently history was definitely altered. Yep, it was altered. By who, you might ask? It's implied it's Reverse Flash. They don't say per se, but yeah, but this arc overall is just really fun, and it just mostly is just set up for the next story arc, which is basically which details the character Hot Pursuit. Yep. But in the case, I at least gotta praise the fact for this book for doing an absolute fantastic job for its first story arc, despite being only 7 issues. It is paced really well, and if you notice though, if you ever get a chance to read the very first arc for Josh Williams' run, his arc is about that long too. Actually, it's like slightly long. I think it's about 9 issues it is. Yeah, it's quite lengthy. But I'm gonna give the first trade that collects his run, the Dastardly of the Rogues, a 9.5 out of 10. Next, Road to Flashpoint. What's the whole point of this storyline? Set up the Flashpoint miniseries. It's basically set up pure that. This character here is known as Hot Pursuit. And yes, you have guest appearances by the entire Flash family. Well, most of them anyways. Mostly just Wally, who is still in the Flash. He basically is still in retirement. Also, I should point out though, his suit is a darker red than Barry's. Bart Allen is here as Kid Flash. Jay Garrick is also here. And mostly it's just basically Hot Pursuit, trying to prevent his timeline from happening. Though he himself is killed in the storyline by Eobard Thawne. Yep. This book contains the last 5 issues of this run. It's roughly 8 through 12 of Flash Volume 3. And yes, the main villain of the story is Reverse Flash. And this is not the first time that... Now, I should point out, though, before I continue. Now, Jeff Johns has written Barry Allen before, and Reverse Flash, in the Rogues War storyline. That was the first time I could think of he wrote Barry Allen. Before recently, of course. Yeah, he was not responsible for bringing him back. No, that was Grant Morrison did that. Yeah, it's oddly enough that Grant Morrison wrote the very storyline that brought back Barry Allen. And people think Jeff Johns was responsible for that, but nope, that was Grant Morrison. And he just basically plans for Johns to basically follow. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mostly put with like the first story arc, it's like the first issue, he just kind of detailed in a way, like, well, Eobard Thawne's backstory, how he became the Reverse Flash. That's really what the first issue, 8 issue was. It's basically his backstory. Issue 9 is the debut of Hot Pursuit. He's actually killed before the end of this arc by Eobard Thawne. This also sets up the whole storyline with the whole thing of, like, apparently a lot of these cases don't have a lot of evidence to basically support convictions. So it's thanks to this case that Barry is on, dealing with the whole Hot Pursuit character, that basically they decided to plan to reopen all the cases they had to rush to close. And yeah, they have to reopen all the cases and try to do them all properly. Yep. Though Patty's fits in this storyline. Yep. Here's Patty, a character who Francis Manapul will later make Barry's girlfriend throughout his entire run, though will leave Barry halfway through Venditti's run. Yep. Also, she apparently is working for Blue Valley. Yeah, that's where she lives now, which I'm thinking, Blue Valley, oh yeah. That was a place that Wally lived when he was doing his adventures as Kid Flash. Also was a crime scene where they just happened to find a little kid. And this little kid just happened to be Eobard Thawne. Yeah, they revealed this actually in the last issue. Yep, it's Eobard. And this all was like time travel stuff. Yeah, a lot of time travel stuff. That's what mostly Barry. I also love how Manapul draws Reverse Flash. It looks so awesome. Yep. And well, Barry in the way now apparently the wand that Hot Pursuit was using, they apparently they basically have Eobard influences his negative force speed. Though the thing kind of ends basically with Barry go back with Iris. Though they don't set up a romance between Patty Spivot and Iris. Though I do think it's kind of dumb the fact that they don't have any more interaction between Patty and Iris. Two characters interact a lot in the next volume. And though the thing would end with to be continued in Flashpoint. Yes, Flashpoint being a really good storyline that led to the New 52. Excuse me. Now, from what I heard about the stuff related to Flashpoint, now, despite the fact that particular miniseries led into the New 52 initiative, an initiative that everybody hated, yeah, the reception for it was mostly negative. And the fact that nobody wanted this to happen. The readers clearly didn't want to. As far as I've heard also, the people at DC Comics didn't want this to happen either. This whole initiative was pushed by Dan DiDio. Yep, he pushed for this. Apparently, what I heard, he's pushing for this for about a few years. Apparently, he's pushing it since like 2007. And this happened in 2011. When he finally had the Flash movement happen. It almost seems as though that Jeff Johns was going to come back this book as soon as he wrapped up Flashpoint and continue on from there. Now, I think there was plans to do an issue 13 for this run. Now, as far as I can tell, from what I heard, or looking online, especially at the time, that there was issue 13 planned. But they canceled that because of Flashpoint. Yeah, it's interesting though, they bring back Flash, the main Flash ongoing series, after they've been gone for a year, and then end it after 12 issues just because of Flashpoint. Yeah, it came back, what I could tell, well, look at my line, the final issue of Flash Volume 2, Flash 247, that was released in February of 2009. The first issue of this book was released in January of 2010. Yep. Now, mind you, the Flashpoint miniseries is really, really good. It's not terrible per se, it's just really good. And it almost seems as though, like, if you read all these books that basically ended because of Flashpoint, it seems as though the writers had a ton of plans they really wanted to do, like stuff they really wanted to explore in these books, but couldn't because of the New 52 reboot. Now, here's the thing. I wasn't sympathetic to a lot of readers, basically. I wasn't, because at the time, when I jumped into DC Comics, this was in 2010, when this book was being published. Yes, that's when I jumped on to DC Comics. Though at the time, I was mostly sticking with Batman and Green Lantern. Eventually, I read almost everything for DC. Flash I was a bit hesitant to get into, but I did eventually got into Flash. And since then I've read every single issue of the Flash comic released since the 50s. It took me about a few years, but I eventually got all of it done. Yep. Now, this book is actually really good. Nothing wrong with this run at all. It's Jeff Johns. It's also the last time he would write the Flash in his own comic book. Because after Flashpoint, Jeff Johns would mostly stick to writing Barry whenever he shows up in Justice League. That's what he did for the next 5 years. He mostly wrote Barry there. He did write Barry in his own solo book. That was Francis Manapul who took over that chore with having Brian Buccellato on board, who actually was the co-writer of the book. Now, Francis also did the artwork as well. Francis Manapul himself would stay with the book up until like issue 24 when they wrapped up the reverse story arc. That's when Manapul left, and Brian Buccellato had to basically bring in another artist for his last run of the book. I think it was called Histories. I think it was. Yeah, it was the fifth and last run that it was basically the last few issues of his run before he left, and then Venditti took over the book and took a book in a very strange direction. Yes, we're having its first 11 issues deal with the same villain. Yeah, the evil Barry from the future. And then having its own reverse Flash, basically the Eobard Thawne one, and then deal with the Rogues. And then have Williamson's run. And thanks for reviewing these two books, I have effectively read, for the Flash comic book, reviewed everything for this comic release since 2010. Yes. And yes, I am counting the Flashpoint miniseries as part of it. Because that was the only thing published for Flash in 2011 between this volume and the start of the next volume. So effectively, I have fully reviewed 2 volumes of the series. As in the case of Volume 2, I have reviewed, I'd say, about a good 40% of the run of that era. I've reviewed most of Jeff Johns' run and even Mark Waid's. Yeah, I'm getting really close to wrapping up both runs. I think in the case of both Mark Waid and Jeff Johns, I think there's about 3 books left for each, and I will cap up both the runs for Flash Volume 2. Now, there's also, yes, I do know about the Savage Velocity trade that collects the first year and a half of the book. I do know about the book. I'm actually pretty happy they finally did a book featuring the first couple years of Wally West's time as the Flash. That's great and all. I appreciate that. I have read the issues. I will probably review the trade sometime in the near future. I plan to get it mostly here on the app. Unless, of course, I do find it when I go to Barnes & Noble tomorrow. If I find it there, I'll get it. If not, I'll read it online. Yep. But yeah, it's cool though in the case of the Flash. I have reviewed pretty much everything since 2010. The only comic you can say, for me anyways, how far back I have reviewed, is Detective. That one I basically reviewed everything released in the comic book since 2011. Mainly because I've read Black Mirror and everything published right after that. But what about everything else? Mostly everything with the exception of Detective Comics and Flash now. Mostly everything released since that's currently published right now anyways. Everything mostly published since 2012. I have reviewed. I would say everything in the last 9 years for a lot of comic books. This book in the last 11. Basically everything published last decade for Flash, all done. Yep. Still got a while to go to review everything for Flash. Well, in trade form. It would take some time to do that. As for if I'll get a chance to review anything else for Flash, I definitely plan to. I won't stop reviewing Flash just because I finished the Flash Volume 3. Yep. Because Flash is a good character. He's never had a particularly... Now, I know Venditti's run basically was mixed at best. I thought it was okay. Didn't really hate it at all. The Fan Prince Brian Buccellato one was excellent. This is the one that came afterwards. Venditti, okay. But Williamson, awesome. I reviewed pretty much everything released for the comic book that collect all the issues of the run. I'd say there's still a little bit left of Williamson's run because his run actually ended recently at issue 762. Excuse me. Because I will discuss more when I get a chance to review like the rest of everything else Williamson's run. And what I thought it was run overall when I get a chance to finish reviewing it. And the thing is, with Williamson, like, this guy had plans for Flash, and he stuck to it. Every single arc, basically, he did, he probably had thoroughly planned for a long time. And you could probably definitely say, for all DC comic books, this is probably one book that probably editorial probably didn't interfere with. They just approved everything that Josh Williamson did. Now, it's something, though, that Bendis hasn't done anything else. Hasn't done a lot of stuff for DC. Mostly he's done some miniseries. As for ongoing-wise, he's only done 3. Superman, Action Comics, Young Justice. But I'll discuss more about that in a video, per se, and what I think of his era so far for DC Comics. I've already discussed in comic history. Yeah, probably will, because I haven't, in a way, technically talked about his time with Marvel, but not this is everything for DC yet. I will discuss that probably sometime tomorrow. But in the case of today, yeah, this is it for videos today. Expect videos tomorrow. Now, 2 definitely come out tomorrow. Actually, there's 3 coming out tomorrow because I did check it. Now, reviews for Yoshira, Half Day Princess, Fire Force, and Is It Wrong? There's going to be girls in a dungeon. Yes, these 3 videos definitely come out tomorrow. And possibly in their Comic Corner. Yes, maybe 1. I do believe so. They'll have at least 1 more Comic Corner to do tomorrow. Presumably an Iron Man, because that's basically what I'm reading right now, reading the Iron Man trades. So I'll probably review that sometime tomorrow. Yep. But yeah, that's it for this particular video. That's probably going to be a video today, unless somehow I just manage to get into 2 Iron Man trades. Okay? See you next video. Bye.